Showcasing local talent, professionals, and everyday people making Salt Lake City what it is today. It's time for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast.
Welcome to episode 171 of the I Am Salt Lake podcast. My name is Chris Hollifield. I am your host. Welcome to the show. I have Ryan Prince with me today on today's introductions of the podcast. How you doing, Ryan?
Doing well.
Thanks so much for sitting down. We're just trying something a little different here. You know, podcasts are ever changing.
We're doing an intro, you guys. This is like a preamble. It's a chance for us to talk just a little bit one-on-one, set up the show.
Yeah, well, so
let us know what you think. If you already hate it, you know, we're throwing things at the wall.
Who's on the show today, Ryan?
Derek Kitchen.
We sat down with him at the City Home Collective, the members only lounge.
Are you liking that? Because I feel like I'm liking it.
Am I liking it?
Yeah, you're
I
liking
love
it,
that
right?
place. Beautiful setting.
You guys are all invited to go to City Home Collective, by the way, and check it out. It's just the downstairs. They have a two-floor building on South Temple. Anyway, we talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in this episode. Check out their website, City Home Collective.
Yeah, if you want a new place to live, they'll point you in the cool direction.
But so this episode, we sat down with Derek Kitchen. He has quite the story between Laziz and the Kitchen versus Herbert case. He's getting married on Sunday.
Yep.
So make sure to go check that out at the Gallivan Center. I believe, what is that, the 24th? I think that's the date on Sunday. The 24th, we talk about it in this episode. Crucial Fest, Ryan. You've never been to Crucial Fest, have you?
Not yet.
I'm going to drag you this year.
It's happening.
Coming up June 18th through June 20th, so it's really just a couple weeks away. Make sure to go to the website, crucialfest.com. Support these guys. They support the podcast, and so go ahead on over to their website. You can buy your wristbands, you buy individual tickets. You can see a complete lineup right there on the website. I mean, there is a whole bunch of bands playing this year that you're not going to want to miss. Goat Snake, Dead Meadow, Royal Thunder, Mothership, as well as a whole bunch of local Salt Lake City bands, a lot that have actually been on the I Am Salt Lake podcast. But I'm enjoying doing the podcast with you, Ryan. I know it's a little different, and I know I don't want to get too much into that. I want to play the conversation with Derek Kitchen here. But I appreciate you stepping in and doing some co-hosting with me. And
yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on. I love what we're doing here. Hopefully it'll just keep picking up steam, and people who realize that, you're listening, it's because you either care about Chris, one of our guests, the city of Salt Lake in general, you're just interested. This place is so multifaceted. It's great to expose some of the new people that are making changes and making things happen around here. And Derek Kitchen's definitely one of them. So this is a good combo.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys, for listening to this episode. Join Ryan and myself as we talk to Derek Kitchen at the City Home Collective in downtown Salt Lake City. Let's get chatting.
Let's do this.
Episode 171. I think I was telling Derek before we started recording. We're at the members lounge at the City Home Collective.
Members only jackets required.
Back here the second time. We had Cody Derek for the first time.
This is such a cool space.
Isn't it though?
Yeah, it's amazing.
You've been to parties here, Derek, so I'm jealous. I haven't been to any parties yet.
I was just telling Ryan about the dance parties we've had in the corner over there.
Well, tell us about them. I mean, what were they all about?
So I don't even know what the party was for, but I received a last-minute invite, a text message, party at the City Home Collective. So you put on your best and you come down, and there's drinks and small bites, and then of course a fantastic local DJ, somebody who probably just pulled some of their favorite records out and decided to spin for a little bit, and it created a really cool environment down here. And I've been to another one after that, where Cody actually invited my company, Laziz, to do a bit of catering. And
nice.
So we provided food and had a good time as well.
So your first time here, because I know it was for me when you walk into the building, I guess it's a cool place, but then when you walk down here, your eyes just light up and you're like, wow. I mean, you would not expect this to be here.
Yeah, it's like 3 swanky VIP little booths, like stacked together all in one nice space.
And I know we talked about it when Cody was on the show. I want to try to get some pictures. It's a little dark down here, so I don't know how the best pictures will come out.
You have to experience it.
Yeah, you really do. And Cody offering to let us do some, more interviews here, bring some more people on the show here. Hopefully future people that come on the podcast will get to experience.
Well, you remember too that Cody said that anybody from the public is welcome to stop by and check it out.
Yeah.
Because he's obviously trying to build a client base. And
do you know the address here for City Home Collective?
645 South Temple, I want to say.
Yeah, it's on the
directly across from the Masonic Temple.
Yeah, north side of the road. CityHomeCollective.com.
I got that wrong. I'm sorry. I'm going to look it up right now. I'm Googling. Here we go.
CityHomeCollective.com is the website. Check it out. I mean, give them some love because they're helping out the podcast
I got it right.
here.
645 East South Temple, Salt Lake City, Utah.
And if you're in the market for a home, check them out, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, we won't get into all that. So Derek Kitchen, he's
Hello.
on the podcast. You've been on the list for a while to bring on the show and talk to and get to know a little bit better. And I'm sure, I'm sure there's quite a few people in Salt Lake as well as, Utah that don't even know who you are. But there's a lot of people that look up to you. You've kind of paved certain ways here in the state. I don't know. Give a little bit of introduction. I mean, you grew up here in Salt Lake or what's your story?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me on the show,
absolutely.
first of all. I'm still a little bit shocked when people say that, they know who I am based on, the lawsuit or whatnot. Because I'm just, myself. And so there's this weird moment when a stranger will come up to me and they will feel very connected right out the gate. And it just takes a moment for me to sit down and chat with them. But I guess that's me.
That happens
trying
to
be
Chris a lot.
there.
That happens to Chris a lot too. It's okay.
But I feel really grateful to be able to have been involved in a case like this that brought a bit of notoriety, but also some great successes for our state. But as far as me, I grew up in South Jordan, which is about 30 minutes south of Salt Lake here, and I had a great childhood. We raised buffalo and cattle and had a fantastic time out in the suburbs. I think.
Did you have buffalo in South Jordan?
Yeah, we had buffalo.
So a bit of a farm.
Yeah, it was just open space.
What did you do with the buffalo? Were they just for meat or for?
Yeah, I mean, my family would slaughter them, and we would sell buffalo jerky. We would have buffalo, bison burgers,
That's awesome.
and
That's awesome. I didn't know we had any in the valley, man. I thought you had to go to Antelope Island for that.
Buffalo's delicious.
Do they
by the
still
way.
raise them?
And most of the land has been developed into subdivisions, and they do have some buffalo. My extended family, but
wow,
yeah, my immediate family not so much anymore. But anyway, I grew up in the suburbs there. I really enjoyed it. But when I graduated high school, I wanted to get out. For some reason, I just wanted to get out as far as possible. And I landed in Salt Lake, and it was still Utah, but it was just enough of a break from the suburban culture that I grew up in that I stuck. And I stayed here, and I've built a business here, and I've built a life, and I love it. And Salt Lake is home and a place I'm incredibly proud of.
Can I ask you real quick, what neighborhoods have you lived in downtown?
So Capitol Hill. I lived across the street from the Capitol for about 3 years with my partner Moudi. And before that, I was living in the Marmalade neighborhood, not too far from Capitol Hill. And for the last 2 years or so, I've been over in the Granary district. And if you're not familiar with the Granary, it's this older industrial neighborhood. It has some grit to it. It's really rough around the edges. Not a lot of residential over there right now, but it's up and coming.
There's some plans for that.
Yeah, it's up and coming. It's been recently rezoned. There's a lot of available property, a lot of creative energy over there. And so I'm really excited to be over there. I have a live work space. So my company, Laziz, we have a commercial kitchen, about 1,400 square feet over there. And I live just above that in an apartment. It's an art space complex, actually.
So that's like 800 south, 400 west?
8 south, 4th west, yeah.
There you go.
So you've always lived here in Utah then? You never really felt the need to venture out at all, or?
No, I mean,
you know that when you're a kid, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get out of Salt Lake, or I can't wait to get out of Utah. I know it happened to me. I moved out east, for a little while, but I came back and I developed a new love for Salt Lake City.
It happens to a lot of people. A lot of folks will leave and they'll go to larger cities, whether it's Seattle or Los Angeles or New York or whatnot. And they all, for the most part, people come back. It's hard to stay away from Salt Lake, because I think there's a lot of comfort that comes with living here. Of course, people have deep roots with their family and whatnot. But beyond that, it's a up and coming city. Salt Lake is a city that's growing rapidly. There's a lot of really great energy on the ground here, and so for anybody who's trying to start a new business, or has a spirit of entrepreneurship to them, or has a creative idea, if you bring something new to the table here in Salt Lake, you're oftentimes met with nothing but excitement and encouragement from the community at large. And I think that kind of energy is intoxicating to somebody who's young and energetic. And so Salt Lake is a great place to operate as somebody who's social, and somebody who's creative, and somebody who's hardworking.
And I don't know if you mentioned you're running for city council as well.
Indeed.
And, I'd like to get more into that, but I figured kind of right at the beginning, just kind of showcase. I mean, you're involved with a lot. I mean, you got a lot on your plate. You stay pretty busy. What's the story with you and Moudi? I mean, how did you guys meet? Do you want to share that at all?
Sure.
I'd love to hear it. I'd love to.
It's a very 21st century love story. We met online.
Really?
Yeah. So there was a website that's closed now, called connection.org. It was in the spirit of Facebook for gay and lesbian people. And so, we just chatted there. Moudi had a blog that he had linked through this website. And so, I went through and read all of his past posts, and, was really interested in him, and sent him a message. And
you're like, this guy's good looking.
He's handsome, first of all. I mean, of course, eye candy doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But then he's smart. He's a deep thinker. He seems like somebody that would challenge me. And so I reached out to him, and he was living in Logan at the time. He was studying at the Utah State University, and I was here in Salt Lake at the University of Utah. And so I traveled up to Logan for our first date, and it's pretty much history from there. We never separated.
Was that tough to go back and forth? I mean,
it was
Salt
tough.
Lake to Logan. I mean, you must have really
90 miles?
Something like that. It took me an hour and a half, unless I was really eager to get up there. But
I've made it from North Logan to home near the Granary District, 700 South, 200 West, and to the airport in an hour and 2 minutes, with getting pulled over once.
Yeah,
Got out of the ticket, by the way.
It's hard, to find love and have that be long distance. In hindsight, I think it was actually a good thing for us, because it forced us to pace ourselves somewhat. So we could only see one another on the weekends, or we could only communicate during the week through email or the phone. And so, it's not uncommon for gays and lesbians, and I'm sure straight people as well, but it's not uncommon for us to move really quickly in relationships. There's kind of this terrible joke that lesbians show up to the first date with a U-Haul, and I think that same rings true for gay men a lot of times. But anyway, so that's a terrible way for me
happens
to
too as well.
Yeah, have you met Chris?
I got a U-Haul out back.
He's ready.
I'm ready.
And I must say that stereotype is not necessarily true. But anyway, so it was hard, but it was good to have that distance, so we could focus on our studies. And then once we graduated, we moved in together here in Salt Lake, and that was our place over on Capitol Hill, which we absolutely loved. We loved being so close to downtown. We liked being right next to the beautiful Capitol building and near Memory Grove, and so that's a fantastic neighborhood.
What made you decide Salt Lake versus Logan? I mean, why didn't you move to Logan instead of Salt Lake? Or is there any reason?
I think
it just
that,
kind of happened.
I desire an urban, living space. And, Salt Lake isn't quite as urban as I think a lot of folks would like it to be. But, for me, it scratched that itch just enough. And I don't think Logan would never be diverse enough for somebody like me who likes to meet new people, engage in new conversations. And, there's obviously, you've heard this joke, Salt Lake is Small Lake City, right? And I think that rings true for the most part, but we're growing, like I said.
Oh, absolutely.
And so there's sometimes when I'll meet somebody and, we will have lived parallel lives for many years, and we'll just look at each other and kind of in awe that we had never met each other before. And so more of that is happening. And I think it's less of a small city and more, we're moving toward a medium-sized city.
Yeah. And I want to get more into that, kind of your thoughts on Salt Lake and all of that. You mentioned Moudi was going to school. Did you say you were going to school as well at the same time, or where were you going to school at the time?
Yeah, the University of Utah.
Okay.
I studied political science and Spanish. I did a little bit of Middle Eastern studies as well. But yeah, and so I graduated in 2012 from the University of Utah, and yeah.
So you and Moudi moved to Salt Lake, and at what time, kind of to quickly, the timeline of Laziz? How did that happen? When did that kind of get pushed into the picture? Was that pretty quickly after you two met?
Absolutely. So right when we moved in together, Moudi and I started cooking. We would prepare all of our meals together, and we developed a passion and a love for fresh, healthy, ethnic, diverse, local foods. All kinds of food. We just liked preparing meals for ourselves. And Moudi, being from Lebanon, we started to flip the pages in a Middle Eastern cooking book, and that's really where we found our true love. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that Moudi was from the Middle East, and you couldn't find traditional Middle Eastern food here in Salt Lake. And so, we really enjoyed cooking tabbouleh or hummus or any of the Middle Eastern dishes that you can find at Maza or on our website. And so our friends and family and colleagues started to request hummus from us because we would bring it with us to lunch, or we would have it at home when we had dinner parties. And so, like I said, we started receiving requests for our hummus, and we thought, maybe we're onto something. And so we applied to sell it at the farmers market in 2012, the summer of 2012.
The downtown farmers market.
The downtown Salt Lake City farmers market at Pioneer Park. And, we were a bit surprised, but we were accepted into the market, and we were thrilled. We were accepted on a part-time basis, which meant we could come every other Saturday and sell. And so, that really kicked it into high gear for us. So we had to start buying packaging supplies online instead of just handing it to our friends and family in the old cream cheese containers, for instance, right? And so we had to step up our game a bit more professionally. So we sourced packaging and, created a very just a simple label and came up with a name. And
because it's tough with food compared to like if you were making something out of wood or clothing.
Sure.
To get all the licensing with food. I'm sure.
And also, there's going to be a lot of people that hear this that don't understand that we're cruising right past the farmer's market. Like most cities have, a farmer's market or something with that name. But in Salt Lake, it's kind of an event that happens in Pioneer Park in downtown, and
every
Saturday all summer. And I used to live in the Dakota building, Dakota Lofts, there, just a block north of the park. And my cell phone wouldn't work on Saturday mornings because people are flooding the area. And the Jazz, played a block north of that. So on Jazz game nights or on big, Energy Solutions events, big events or concerts, I could count on AT&T just not having a signal that night. But the farmers market's a big deal, So you guys getting in there, how was the exposure? How did it go? Huge. I just wanted to catch that back up so that, if anybody's ever in Salt Lake on a Saturday in the summer, if you head over there, you'll have a good time.
The farmers market was the most important part of us starting our business. It was, I like to think of the farmers market as a business incubator more than anything. And it's much more than just fresh produce and such. You find, all kinds of packaged foods like hummus or salsa or hot sauces or mustard or any kind of just packaged food. And then, of course, you have the art and craft side of the market where people can experiment with, woodworking or clothing or art or photography. And the farmers market is truly bringing a product to market and getting immediate feedback from your customers or your consumers. And so if you're doing something that doesn't sit well with a lot of people, you'll hear about it right then. There's something special about the market. It's a place where, locally minded, energetic, compassionate, interesting people come together and build community. And so the market was started in 1992, and it's just grown steadily ever since. And I think personally, it's the highlight of Salt Lake.
Do you know when does it start? June?
It starts June 13th is opening day.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, if you're listening,
you guys still involved?
We're deeply
You're
involved.
up to full-fledged membership every week?
You guys sponsor it too, don't you? Or no?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of our philosophy with our business. We're given a huge opportunity to grow a business, thanks in part to the farmers market. So for us, it's only the right thing to do. It's to sponsor the market and to give them, the capital they need to run every year, at least participate in offering that capital. And so, and for us, it's great marketing as well, so, Laziz is a sponsor of the farmers market, both the winter market and the summer market. And, we've been doing that for about 3 years now.
So just to back up just a little bit. So your first farmers market, you've gone out, you packaged all this hummus up and, your products up. You had no idea really you give it to your family and friends, but this is your opportunity to get it in front of the public. Were you nervous at all to see what the response would be like? Or, I guess you've distributed enough to family and friends to it was good and people would like it. Or what was the response like?
The response was fantastic. People loved our product. But to answer your earlier question, yes, I was very nervous to bring it to market and to talk to people about it and to do my best to sell the product. I think that there was a bit of pressure on me as, the token white guy at the market with my Lebanese husband or, soon to be husband next to me. And at least I had him who lent a little bit of authenticity to, the hummus product we were selling. But I don't know. I think, whenever you have a new idea or when you're out there promoting something that's new, there's always a bit of fear because of the unknown, right? But after we had a really positive response, all of that fear faded away and it just turned into, increased momentum and energy, behind our business. I say we started out with hummus, which was just one of our products. And then because of such a good response to that, we added 2 additional products, which aren't hummus. We have a red pepper dip made with walnuts and pomegranates. And then we have a garlic spread that's really strong. A tablespoon is about 5 cloves of raw garlic in it. And
I'll wake you up.
Yeah, totally. And, I grew up in South Jordan. We didn't eat we ate garlic, but it wasn't the same way that, you eat it in the Middle East or in Greece.
How does that rate in Lebanon? How does your garlic hummus rate over there? Is it middle of the road? Is it?
Our hummus is fantastic.
No. I'm quality wise. Like, how is it a lot of garlic, or is it? That's to better phrase the question. 5 cloves of garlic in your bit. Is that a high level? If you go over there, are there people that are just dumping like 15 cloves in, or is it how's it? Or is it how is it?
It's kind of a traditional recipe. The product is called toum, which translates into garlic in Arabic, Toum. And what that is a garlic spread or a condiment that you add into your cooking or put on sandwiches or on grilled meats, for instance. But historically, toum is used as the condiment on a shawarma. If you've ever had a chicken shawarma, it's the shaved chicken. Mm-hmm. It's just a garlic spread. And so that's it's very traditional. And so I would say it's pretty comparable to the garlic spreads in the Middle East. But
see, I wanted to set that up because I think a lot of people hear there's a lot of garlic in this and it might scare them off.
Oh, it's delicious.
Yeah.
But hey,
I buy it whenever
give it
I
a
can.
shot. And there's people over there who are like, yeah, this is mandatory.
Well, when I was sampling originally the garlic product, the garlic toum, I would kind of hesitate to hand the sample of the product on the spoon to the customer because I knew how strong it was, and I was just kind of bracing myself for a dramatic response. And sometimes I do get that, but most of the time people are just in awe. They're like, "Oh my God, that's so good! That's delicious! I'll take one." And so I would say that the garlic spread is it's a very strong product and it takes a certain kind of person to like it, but it has developed a cult following. So if you like spicy food or if you like garlicky food or if you're just a cook more broadly, I think you'll like toum.
Now, do you see more products coming out or besides the 3? Or
yeah.
You're kind of working on some stuff or just kind of focusing on the 3 right now?
We have a couple products in the pipeline. We just haven't had an opportunity to really move on them. Baba Ganoush is one product that we tried at the farmer's market and had a really great response with, but it just took so much labor to produce it that we couldn't really make a good profit on it. And those are the kind of decisions you have to make in business is, I have a product here that people love and it sells, but the margin just doesn't make it worthwhile. So,
what do you do?
Yeah, what do you do? So we discontinued that for now until we can upgrade some of our equipment and we could streamline our process a bit. And we're working on that as well. And that actually leads me to, what we're doing next. So my partner and I, Moudi, we've teamed up with a developer to build on some property in the city here because we'd like to open up a deli, a traditional Middle Eastern deli. And so that's kind of what we're working on right now. We've been working on that for the last 12, 16 months or so. And so last year we put together a big proposal with the developer and a few other local businesses to acquire some property that's owned by the city, by the redevelopment agency in the Central 9th neighborhood, which is over by the track stop on 9th South and 200 West, which has recently been rezoned by the city.
Sages moved right there.
Exactly. So you've got Sages, you have formerly No Brow Coffee, now Blue Copper Coffee. Local First Utah has their headquarters in that neighborhood, and there's a community garden right there, and a number of properties that are up for redevelopment. So we put in a bid with the developer on the property just to the east of No Brow Coffee Shop, and we were awarded that last September, and now we're just waiting for all of the dirty details to be ironed out with the redevelopment agency, and we're hoping to break ground in July, which would hopefully position us for a February or March 2016 grand opening. So,
well, I'll definitely be there. I love it. I love all your products.
I can't wait to feed you.
Where can people find, like right now? So you got Farmers Market. You're going to be at Farmers Market every Saturday, starting June 13th, you said, right? Other than that, I mean, because I know Harmon's, right? I've seen them at Harmon's.
Of course, Harmon's, Whole Foods is a great vendor for us. We're in specialty shops like Caputo's, Liberty Heights Fresh. There's a farmer's market store down in Murray on 5800 South and State Street. We're in a number of smaller retailers as well as the larger ones like Harmon's and Whole Foods. We also recently started selling our products through Winder Farms, Winder Dairy. They do the home delivery. And so we have our products available through them.
So people listening can, if you're already getting your milk, try some of your hummus or tuna.
Please try.
Or if they fall in love with the farmer's market, can they just sign up for home delivery on the spot?
That's actually not a bad idea. Let me talk to Winder Farms about that.
There we go.
I bet
they'll love you.
Or you can create your own home delivery and you could deliver it.
Yeah.
There we go.
I've thought about this actually. It's not a bad idea. Just, the amount of overhead you need in order to deliver from door to door, it's best to outsource that to somebody like Winder.
Yeah.
But what's nice with the Winder Farms is it takes our product outside of Salt Lake and outside of Utah. We go all the way to Las Vegas and into Orange County as well. And so that's been a really good account for us. And we're just looking to grow as well. So we're hoping to expand into retailers like Whole Foods in Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona. So that's our next step.
Nice work.
Have you've tried?
I haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I know I'm salivating here now.
Get out of here,
I skipped dinner. Calm down. I want some. Sheesh. Yeah. There's hummus in my fridge, and I'm ashamed to say it's not Laziz. But I'm positive to say that it's been sitting there a long time. If it was good, it would have been eaten. So I'm coming to get some, man.
The guys at work always make fun of me because I always have some sort of hummus.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what they call it pumice, like the pumice. I don't know.
You know what? Those guys need a little garlic sampler where you give them no forewarning.
Yeah. Well, let's fast forward a little bit. I mean, we could sit here and we could chat all day, and talk about everything. But let's fast forward a little bit. I don't know the best where to go into this area, but December 20th, the monumental date, 2013, right?
Yeah.
Let's, would that be a good area to start, you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I love it. So there's so many, questions that I have on this, and I'm sure you're going to cover most of them, but what you did and what you accomplished changed the landscape for so many people. And so I want you to just kind of tell your story about the Kitchen versus Herbert lawsuit, the origin story of that, just hear it from your point of view and how it's gone for you and what it was like to be Derek Kitchen during the process.
Sure. That's a,
that's a lot loaded.
That's a tall order there, but, no, it's all right.
Well, let's start at December 20th. Cause
Sure.
I mean, the case didn't even obviously start then. I mean, the day just happened, popped up. You probably got a phone call saying, hey, check this out. What's going on? I mean,
well,
talk about your feelings.
Yeah. I mean, December 20th was unexpected. So we went to, court on December 4th, a few weeks before the decision. And, we didn't have a ton of media coverage. There was not a lot of interest in what we were doing. And so we didn't realize the potential ramifications of what was coming. We didn't realized that on December 20th, we would have a decision that would legalize marriage for gay and lesbian people immediately. And,
in Utah, of all
in Utah.
places. Yeah, right?
When we would tell people, before the decision came down that we were suing the state because we were hoping to bring marriage equality here, we would kind of get laughed in our face. People would laugh at us so they would smirk, or they would kind of they would say something to the effect of, Utah, that'll be the last place on earth that marriage equality will come, and I think that a lot of people felt that Utah would be the 50th state to legalize marriage equality.
In the back of your mind, though, you probably felt that same way, right? A little bit, or no?
If that's the overriding narrative, then there's obviously a bit of belief in myself for that.
Yeah.
I did think that we could potentially.
Well, yeah, exactly. But again, anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to,
no, that's
pull
all right.
off there. But
so, I was just in the production kitchen for Laziz working on Friday, December 20th when I got a phone call. The phone call said, Judge Shelby ruled in our favor, and you guys better get down to the clerk's office because people are lining up to get married. And that kind of went in one ear and out the other because I was so focused on the fact
called you?
that we won.
Who was the call from?
My attorney, Peggy. Yeah. And so, Moudi and I wrapped up. We ended up throwing out all the food we were cooking, and we hadn't gone through any sort of media training. We had no experience talking to the news, and they wanted a comment. All the news stations locally and nationally wanted a comment from us, and that was so much dramatic energy directed our way all of a sudden, unexpectedly. And so, I kind of hid myself away for about an hour or so while the news sunk in, and I let Moudi, my partner, handle all of the news calls, because he was much better. I just think he's smarter than me, so I let him do all that. But, and so that, it was incredible because, people were lining up to get married that never imagined that they would be able to marry in the state of Utah. And I think it really led to a pivotal shift in cultural understanding of what was possible in our state. And so for that, I just feel really honored to have been able to participate in something so deeply meaningful in the lives of so many strangers. Now,
there's a grundle of states that followed suit. When that came down, it seemed like 23 some odd states all went in a row, that was the ruling that allowed it in their state as well. What was your feedback? Did you get a lot of feedback from all over, or how did it go for you?
Yeah, we received notes and messages and gifts, for that matter, from people all over the country and all over the world. We popped up in news stories in Germany and even Ukraine and, all over. And so, the impact was global to a degree. And when we started seeing all the other states follow suit and cite our case as precedent in the decision, that was really special to us because we kind of felt like the first domino, the case that set it off. And look at where we're at now. We're currently waiting a decision from the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, on marriage equality nationwide. And our case is cited in those briefs. And that feels really cool. That's much larger than myself. That's much larger than the relationship I built between me and my partner. And I just, like I said, that's unexpected, but awesome. It's amazing.
So where did the name Kitchen versus Herbert? Where did that? That's obviously your last name.
Yeah. So when we decided that we were going to sue the state, before we officially did so, we had to go to the county clerk's office, Sherry Swenson's office, and apply for a marriage license and be rejected. And with that rejection, we went back to our attorney's office and we put together all of the paperwork and documentation to file the complaint in federal court. And at the time, Moudi and I were the only plaintiffs involved. And so we decided to use my last name instead of Moudi's last name because my last name is much easier for most folks to pronounce. And it's such a Utah name, Derek Kitchen is much more uniquely Utah than Muhammad Sabaidi. So we decided that my name would ring a little bit better if it were to make the news, and just for the sake of history, we just thought the Kitchen case sounded so homey. It sounded everybody could relate to a kitchen. There was a sense of comfort there. And so, that's, our thought process behind using my last name.
And now kind of fast forwarding just a little bit. I mean, you're getting married.
Indeed.
On Sunday.
Yes. And so, I'll backtrack just somewhat.
Okay.
So during that, after December 20th, it opened up 17 days of marriage equality in Utah while the state of Utah scrambled to put together their appeal and put all of those marriages on hold. And so during that 17-day window, we were receiving pressure from our friends and our family and, strangers and people in the legal community, all putting pressure on us to go get married ourselves because the other two couples did get married, and Moudi and I stayed unmarried during that window.
Why didn't you?
And we did that because we knew the state was. It's the answer to that is twofold. So we wanted not to be rushed to get married. We didn't want to feel like we were going to get married in the dark halls of the county, the clerk's office. And we wanted the opportunity to plan it out, to involve my parents, to have family fly in from around the world. We have family in town right now because our wedding is on Sunday. We have family from Australia and the Middle East coming in. And we just really wanted to do it the traditional way. We wanted to spend the time to plan it out and to incorporate as many folks as possible. And then the second part was we were somewhat worried that because the state was appealing our case to the 10th Circuit and potentially the Supreme Court, we were overly cautious because there was a small chance that if all of the plaintiff couples involved in the case that were suing the state to get married, if all of the couples were married, that the case could be thrown out on standing issues. And so we wanted to avoid any sort of conflict on that regard and allow our case to truly, go through all the motions it needed to and not be kicked out.
It was a heck of a story. I remember it, waking up and being like, wow, what's going on? And then just watching it unravel and watching, certain counties in Utah not acknowledging it. And it was interesting. It was interesting to watch it unfold.
Now
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I was going to say your marriage coming up, I understand is you sent out the invites to everyone that that was relevant on your list, but that it was also that you decided to include the public.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your thoughts behind that.
Let's talk about marriage. What a fun day.
Married life. Yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly what to expect as far as married life goes. We've been living together for quite a while, so I don't imagine much will change. But yeah, I'm really jazzed about our upcoming wedding. And over the last 18 months or so, while we were in the case and very visible in public for marriage equality, left and right on a daily basis, we would receive, inquiries from people who had never met us but were wanting to just express their gratitude or to let us know their personal story with how they were impacted by the case. A lot of people were Mormon, had a gay son or a gay daughter, or a brother or, a sibling or somebody in their family that was gay or a coworker or a colleague. And what we began to realize is that everybody knows somebody who's gay. And everybody, therefore, was affected in a positive way by this ruling. And furthermore, so many people felt deeply emotionally invested in the outcome of this case. And so, it being a case that we had named after us and feeling a sense of ownership over that victory, we wanted to include everybody. We want anybody who, again, felt emotionally invested in what happened to feel like they could come celebrate this last hurrah, if you will, of marriage equality in Utah. And so we want everybody to feel welcome. We're doing it Sunday, May 24th at the Gallivan Center at 1:00. And, this has really become a community wedding. Again, back to our roots as, business owners getting their start at the farmer's market, the local community is where all the magic is. That's where all the excitement is, and that's where the community is built. And so, we included all local businesses to provide food or drinks or entertainment. And so we have this community coming together to put on this wedding. And so we're really, really excited. It's more of a community celebration than it is a wedding about me and Moudi. This is really this is our chance to celebrate the great successes that we've had in our state. And and to move forward to what's next.
Do you think the Gallivan Center is going to be big enough?
Well, we rented out enough space for 1,000 people, and that's what we're roping off. And then there's plenty of just public space on the plaza that we imagine people can stand on and witness the wedding. And we've planned it out so that we'll be on the stage and people can stand, in the parking garage next door or anywhere nearby, and hopefully get a glimpse of our nuptials.
I hope to make it.
Yeah.
Are you going, Ryan?
Yeah, we plan to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying.
Your invite's been on the fridge for months, man.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And, that's another thing that was a community thing. We had somebody from the community just offer their services to do an illustration for us, and people donated the services to print the invites. And this has been a genuine community endeavor here.
Are you nervous?
Well, I'm a bit nervous to give my words of honor and love to Moudi in front of the world, essentially. But, I'm more excited to celebrate than anything else.
Yeah. You guys got a honeymoon planned or anything?
No, so many of our time and resources have gone into planning this big celebration that we took a week off after the wedding. That's blacked out on our calendar. But we actually haven't planned anything yet. So I think we'll just
lock yourself in your apartment and just watch Netflix.
That sounds good. I need to catch up on Breaking Bad. So, but no, I think we'll probably head to the coast or do some camping. Moudi and I love to camp. We like the smell of campfire and the feeling of getting a little bit dirty in nature. So, we'll probably do some camping and just spend a week together.
You have a dog, right?
We have a dog.
Your dog like camping too?
Oh my gosh. So we have a husky shepherd mix, and she is bossy. But yes, and she loves to camp. She likes to hike and swim and fetch. And so we'll probably be taking her with us as well.
Let's jump forward, before we completely run out of time here. City Council.
Yeah, City Council.
I want to talk to you about this. I mean, Salt Lake City Council what district?
District 4, which
yeah.
is all of downtown. So District 4, the boundaries are 9th South on the south end and South Temple on the north, and then the freeway all the way up to the university. So you get all of Gateway, all of the homeless shelter, Pioneer Park, all of the downtown Central Business District, Central City, and all the neighborhoods just below the University of Utah. So it's the best district in the entire state.
I'm right on Broadway.
Perfect.
Right down by Pioneer Park.
Yeah, man, you're in my district.
Yeah. Well,
That's the district.
It's the best district.
That's Salt Lake City. That's downtown
the
Salt Lake
heart
City,
of it all, man. That's my love right there.
It is. It's my love too, and that's part of why I'm doing this. I see so much happening here on the ground in Salt Lake, and I really want to be able to represent what's going on with the business community and the creators and the makers at City Hall. And I don't feel like there's been a real voice for those folks, on City Council for some time. And that's really where the heartbeat, the pulse of our city is in our locally owned independent businesses. And so, I'm really hoping to run a campaign that's focused on local, that's focused on all of the exciting things that's going on in our city, and to hopefully talk about things that we can do to encourage more productive growth in the community and in the city. How do we capitalize on the energy that already exists in the city? How do we capitalize on the investment that's already coming and make it that much greater? And I've got a few ideas, but, after the kitchen case came to an end on October 6th of 2014, all of a sudden I had this abundance of time that wasn't being consumed by the lawsuit. And, I obviously have a background in politics. I studied political science at the University of Utah, and I have a passion for local government. And I just felt like it had to be me. I had to be the one to step up to the plate, because I heard through the grapevine that the current councilman, Luke Garrett, was planning to run for mayor. And so he was vacating the seat. With the prospect of an open seat and a lot of political and community support, I figured this is my time. I have to run, and I got to make it about Salt Lake. Got to be the downtown councilman. Got to talk about all the cool things that's going on in the city, and really do what I can to project a vision for the future of our city here.
Yeah.
What's the time frame? Is this a 2016 election?
2015.
15. So it's happening this fall?
November.
So there's a primary in August. August 11th is the primary, and the general election is in November 3rd. And it's nonpartisan, which is great. So, you don't have to attach yourself to an R or a D. You don't have to get caught up in all the baggage that comes with partisan politics. Being nonpartisan, I get to really focus on Salt Lake and my ideas for Salt Lake and what kind of advocate I feel like I can bring for Salt Lake to City Council.
And you have a Facebook page that you talk a lot about what kind of you're involved in or what, your thoughts on the city. And I'll put those links, on the show notes for this so people can, like your Facebook page.
That'd be great.
Can people get involved, obviously?
I'm looking for volunteers.
Volunteers.
Yeah. Volunteers. I need two things. I need some money and I need volunteers to knock on doors, to hand out literature, and to just be excited about Salt Lake and to be excited about me as a candidate and about what I can do. And so those are two major things, and all of that can be found on my website, which is votederekkitchen.com. And then in the early part of June, I will have a new website up and running, which will have some policy suggestions and things that I'm going to really advocate for as I'm out campaigning, and hopefully what I can advocate for on city council if elected.
What's the toughest part about, running for city council, do you think?
Raising money. Yeah, that's the worst part and the toughest part, because you have to raise money in order to win. And so that's the toughest part for me. What's not tough is talking to people. It's not tough to get out and knock on doors. It's not tough for me to think about all the great things that Salt Lake is doing and all the great things that they can be doing. So, the toughest part is just asking and begging for money.
When, I love that the city council has, and, it's not a non-partisan deal. I think that eliminates a lot of the issues. It seems like Salt Lake City as a city has had a Democratic mayor forever.
Yeah.
While Utah in general is, legislature is dominated by Mormon representation. Yeah. It seems like Salt Lake City and specifically District 4 that you outlined, the main downtown hub is a real democratic environment. Are you finding a lot of support? Do you feel the message is out? Because you said like we've commented on past podcasts about just the buzz in the city, and I think a lot of people really feel it. They really feel like it's exciting to see the growth. It's exciting to see the development. A lot of the investment in development you see being done, through essentially Republican channels, and a lot of it you see being done on the local basis, through probably traditional Democratic channels,
So there's a couple questions in that, but I will say that I have experienced quite a bit of support here in the city. People are progressively minded, mostly liberal, really excited about Salt Lake. And so, I have experienced a lot of support just when I get out there and talk to people because, I'm investing personally in the city, and they like to see investment. They like to see growth. They like to see the development, and to have a little bit of that experience underneath my belt and to be able to talk about it with a bit of knowledge and experience is exciting to people, because, I can move forward and I can have an eye for things that are working well or not working well.
I heard you got to shadow, Jim Dubakis for a few days during the legislative session, be up on the Capitol Hill. I have no concept of what that was like. I'd love to hear your insider's perspective on what you got to see and what your takeaways were.
Sure. So I actually followed Jim Dubakis in the Senate and then Brian King in the House of Representatives on 2 different days. And during the legislative session, I don't know how those lawmakers do it, because they are buzzing from one committee meeting to another, and they are on the phone in 1 second and then in the middle of a big, budget meeting another minute. And so I'm surprised with their ability to multitask, because they're doing so damn much all at once. And so I have a great deal of respect for any lawmaker, really. But especially, folks like Dubakis and Brian King and the Democratic leaders up on the Hill.
Was it just crazy? Was it like did you see, I've watched House of Cards. Is it just lobbyists in your face, or reporters trying to get a word in, like supporting staff members, giving you briefs, updates?
Yeah, there's a lot.
Were you just shadowing as if you're kind of their, like an intern taking notes, or?
I was a fly on the wall for the most part.
Yeah.
It was an opportunity for me to see how business works up there and to, explore the idea of whether or not that would be something of interest to me in the future. Because like I said, I feel energized to go out and make a change in my community. I'm doing that right now with my business and, obviously with the lawsuit. But I want to do more of that with, some smart policy making. I love policy. I am a policy wonk. I like zoning. I like development. I'm way into anything that has to do with affordable housing or transit. So those are all things that I'm going to focus on as councilman in the city. And so, it was really fascinating for me to be on the Hill during the legislative session. It was also depressing to see what important issues weren't discussed. And how hard it is to get a genuine resolution on something as simple as air quality or Medicaid, and all of those things that really impact us deeply, not only in Salt Lake, but in the entire state. And so, I think that it's critical right now for those folks who are interested in making a difference to come forward and put their energy out there so that we can rally together and really push our state forward.
And they can start using that energy with a nice little click on kitchen this fall.
And yeah, and I'll put the website on the show notes and all that. I want to talk Salt Lake City really quickly. I always ask this of people that come on the show, and you being somebody who loves Salt Lake, everybody obviously does, but I think you have a little bit extra Salt Lake pride. What are some favorite, say somebody was visiting Salt Lake, what is one or two things you would say you have to check this out?
The Shoreline Trail. You have to go to the Shoreline Trail first and foremost, do a hike in the morning. Then I recommend checking out some local food restaurants, whether it's for breakfast. You can go to the Park Cafe. I went to Hub and Spoke on 11th East and 13th South the other day, and I was blown away.
I haven't been there.
It's amazing.
What is it? What are they all about?
Scott Evans, who runs Pago, he has Finca. He opened up the East Liberty Tap House in the 9th and 9th neighborhood. He just opened up Hub and Spoke, which is delicious. It's diner food, but, done well. And so I definitely recommend the French toast at Hub and Spoke. But coffee, we've got great coffee here. So, go to Blue Copper Coffee, go to Thule Bakery for a pastry and some coffee. As far as lunch goes, we have some fantastic lunch spots. So, whether it is Finca or it's the Copper Onion or the Avenues Bistro, which is a garden to table restaurant, in the Avenues on 3rd Ave. So food is huge in Salt Lake, and that's something you can't miss as a visitor. But outside of that, of course, the outdoor rec and the nightlife. It's surprising, but we do have an underground nightlife here. We have a lot of energetic busybodies who are out there creating music, doing a lot of really cool things with art and visual entertainment. And that's, like I said, that's the life stream of our city. That's what gives us character and provides vibrancy and adds value that attracts tourists. And I think that, as a city, we ought to be highlighting these folks because that will bring more visitors and therefore more tourism dollars and drive a local economy, which I really want to promote.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's there if you look for it. Sometimes it's a little tough to find it. And that's one thing I'm even trying to,
that's an educational basis, like tough to find it is as soon as then you find a home, in a lot of the areas you're looking for,
well, 'cause I get people that say, I don't know what's going on in Salt Lake. It's like, oh, there's nothing to do. And it's like, gosh, I could think of 10 things almost every night of something to do, cause I know where to go to find it.
I will say one thing, Moudi and I, we're big fans of couchsurfing.org. If you're not familiar with that, it's a way for people to travel and hook up with people, hook up with their homes, sleep
have
on
a local liaison. Like a concierge, essentially, like you make a friend somewhere. I've heard of it.
And it's totally free. Yeah. So, it's just it's a platform for people to connect and share, their couch or their guest bedroom with travelers. And so anyway, we're big fans of that. And one thing that, couch surfers from all over the world have noted to me is, just the energy that is going on in Salt Lake. They can't quite put their thumb on what it is, but there's a pulse here. And it's the local economy. It's the local businesses. It's all of these artists, the creators, the makers, the doers, the people that are driving our community. And it is a bit hard, I think, at first, and this is maybe a downfall that we have. It's hard to penetrate these tight-knit communities at first. But once you finally do penetrate it, you're in for life. And you found an immediate community. And that's,
Yeah, people here are really supportive of each other. You know, everybody, I think, is some of the nicest people in the world.
Maybe once you're on city council, we can have like a, every Wednesday night at the Gallivan Center type of thing. New people, meet and mingle, come in, some
idea.
local bands, food. Who knows?
Well, because
There's a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of things that people aren't doing that they could. Events are created by people that, you created an event for thousands and thousands of your contemporaries, and it just is a decision away. There at some point you made a decision. Hey, let's challenge the, David versus Goliath. Let's at least, stamp our flag here and say what we want to do. And it just seems like there's so much more that could happen, and it will, and it has to, and it's going to happen from inspiring people like Chris Hollyfield, who wants a podcast about what's happening here, Just kidding, Chris. I love floating your boat because you just blush. You're like, thanks, man.
I think there's something to be said about the power of effort. People in Salt Lake, especially younger people, they know that putting a little bit of effort into something that they care about will return huge dividends in the long run.
Yeah, it's like that energy you were talking about earlier. Yeah. Even
if Kitchen v. Herbert didn't lead to overturning the ban on gay marriage, just putting out that effort and making a stand, I think that speaks volumes about what we're capable of and what kind of movements we can start by just banding together and supporting one another. And I think that you see that left and right here in Salt Lake. And that's really, like I said, that's magic.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like having a loving based culture instead of a fear based culture. Like growing up with a ton of rules leads to like an equal, backlash of rebellion again, and challenging of that. And growing up with a lot of love usually leads to like, feeling like you should pass that on and, share love again with someone else. And so I like what you said there.
Thanks.
Any other topics you guys want to talk about before we close the show out?
There's one more I have.
Okay. Well, go
Tell
ahead,
me
Matt.
about your trip to Beirut.
Beirut. Yeah, I've been to Lebanon twice now. And now that we're about to open up our deli, we're planning a third trip back just because we want to get some inspiration for design and cuisine and such. But Lebanon is fantastic. It's historically known as the Paris of the Middle East. And I think a lot of that comes from the architecture and the fact that the people living in the city, which is a port city, so it's very international. The people in the city are very Western and European in mindset and in fashion. And so Beirut is a fantastic place. If you ever want to experience the Middle East, Beirut is the place to go because it's safe and comfortable for Westerners, but it's totally authentic to the Middle Eastern culture.
So as a white kid from Utah,
hey man, I'm a white kid from Utah,
and
too.
you're going in there, with your boyfriend, you're like, how was the real experience for you? I mean, like they don't, I feel just even bringing up this question, I put myself in your shoes and I could feel like my eyes like widen to see what the threats are. Cause, I grew up in watching some Middle East Beirut bombing news, and that's kind of my, overrunning Beirut headline. And now I hear it's the Paris of the Middle East, and I know that the Mediterranean coast is just gorgeous and temperate, beautiful weather. And, I can exactly see like you're walking into that. I'm sure you were well prepared by Moudi for how great it was going to be. How was it for you as you entered that first flight about to touch down, and you're like, whoa.
Well, let me just say, you're right. There has been a history of war in Lebanon and in Beirut specifically. In fact, Moudi, my partner, was evacuated to the United States in 2006 because of a war between Lebanon and Beirut, and he wasn't safe there, so he had to come here. And so it's not unfamiliar to see conflict over there. But what I will say as a white American, people are excited to come talk to me because they know English for the most part. They know at least a number of words in English, and they see it as an opportunity to show off their English skills.
Nice.
And so, and if they didn't assume I was American, they thought I was Lebanese myself. And you look at me and you think you're bald and you're redhead and you're pale, Derek. But it's true, there are redheaded Middle Easterners. And so a lot of folks thought that I was Middle Eastern until I opened up my mouth, and obviously I'm from Utah or the Western United States. But so I think that they didn't assume that I was a foreigner until I opened my mouth.
So how did it go? Like your time spent there?
It's amazing. We're actually hoping at one point in our future, maybe retirement, that we can purchase a home and some land in the southern part of Lebanon, which is a lot like Southern California.
Yeah, I heard that coast is just perfect.
It's amazing. It's beautiful. Yeah. Moudi's grandma, who we spent some time in her garden in 2011, she has 3 avocado trees, 2 lemon trees, and then just a huge garden of vegetables. And so to be able to go out to your yard and pick a lemon or an avocado sounds like heaven to somebody like me. So we're definitely jockeying to find some land in Lebanon at some point in our future.
Is what you learned in Middle Eastern studies at the U applicable when you went over there? Did it matter?
Somewhat. I think knowing the geopolitical alliances and understanding the history of the Middle East, it's very complex. And it's, since the 1940s, it's mostly been written by the West. But I think that having that knowledge gave me a little bit of understanding of how things worked over there. And that obviously is a good baseline to start from as a tourist. But, I've definitely assumed the Lebanese identity as part of my own. I've been in the process of learning Arabic myself. I know maybe 90 or 100 words. And so, I'm working on that and I want to have that as my adopted culture at some point. And so, I'm working toward that as we speak. But, the Middle East is a wonderful place, even though it is very messy in a lot of regards, but, it's worth visiting if you have the opportunity.
Love it.
Let's run down the list, how people can get in touch with you, how they can find out more about you.
And if they liked what they heard, how they can support your campaign.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if they feel aligned with like the vision of everything you said about Salt Lake City, then let's get behind it and create that change.
Yeah.
Well, come see me at the farmer's market. That's the best place to get to know me. We're there every Saturday starting June 13th this year, downtown Pioneer Park. Beyond that, next year we're opening up a deli, so come let me feed you. And then as far as my social media, you can check out my business online, Laziz, Laziz-foods.com. And then for my campaign, it's votederekkitchen.com. And then I'm also on Facebook at facebook.com/votederekkitchen, where I'm pretty involved as well.
Absolutely. And I'll get those links on the show notes. Let's leave the listeners with a motto, words of wisdom, piece of advice, something you want to leave with the listeners.
Put your best effort forward every day. If there's something that you care about, work toward it. Nobody has ever been criticized for trying. An honest effort is worth more than anything in the world. So if there's something that you care about, go out and put your energy and your money and your passion behind it, and something positive will result. So I say, an honest effort is worth anything.
Many thanks goes out to Derek Kitchen for joining us on this episode of the podcast. I had a great conversation with him. I really enjoyed that. What do you think of that episode, Ryan?
I loved his passion for Salt Lake and his vision for what's happening here. He seems like he's very, very devoted to his business, devoted to his partner, and really impressed with what he's accomplished so far. I mean, he made a huge splash with, his lawsuit, making it so that people kind of marriage equality. Like there's a lot of takeaways right now.
Oh, I loved it.
He's really well spoken.
I left there and I was just like, gosh, I didn't think that it was possible to love Salt Lake any more than I did. But I left there and I was just like, wow, I love this city. I never want to leave.
I love it. There you go, man.
Excellent. Well, send us an email, iamsaltlake@gmail.com. I'd love to know your thoughts on this episode or any other episode of the podcast. Make sure to check out the show notes. Go to the website, iamsaltlake.com/171. I'm going to put the links to get in touch with Derek, find out more about his city council. He's been running for city council as well as Laziz. Mm-hmm. And check them out at Farmers Market. That starts up here in a few weeks, goes through October.
And he was real sincere about inviting people that wanted to support him in the wedding. It's a big day for them. So Sunday, 1 p.m., Gallivan Center.
Yeah, this upcoming 1 p.m. I think it started. So if you're listening to this podcast, that's why we wanted to get it up a little bit earlier than its typical release date, so people can have an opportunity that might not have known about the wedding to go check that out and support them. Because
kind of a landmark, place and time, and what he's done. It's pretty cool.
there's a few ways you can support the show, support the podcast, help keep it alive. First and foremost, make sure you're sharing in the podcast episodes with your family and friends. Share on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, any social media outlets that you use, or word of mouth. Go knock on your neighbor's door and say, "Hey, check out this great podcast."
Pass out flyers, run a fundraiser for us, whatever you want, whatever is important.
Make sure to rate and review it in iTunes or on Stitcher Radio. I know Ryan was trying to figure out how to do it on his phone right now.
I know, you guys. I'm going into I'm rating 5 stars. I'm going to write a good review. I'm going to say Chris Hollifield has a buttery smooth voice that is super endearing, and then I just can't get enough. Something like that, right?
Well, it's nice just to know what people think of the podcast, and it helps boost the ratings. You don't realize how important that review is for the podcast to get in, it's different demographics especially in the iTunes world, gets it exposed to more people. And so rate and review the podcast. Also, feel free to donate to the podcast. $1 or $2 helps keep the podcast alive with web hosting, audio hosting, new equipment. If you go to imsaltlake.com/donate, there's a PayPal button right there. Feel free to kick over some change, I guess you would say.
Just some green love.
Yeah, help keep the podcast alive. But anything else you want to mention, Ryan, before we let these kind folks of Salt Lake leave us today?
Check out crucialfest.com. They've been sponsoring the podcast.
Yeah.
Check out those bands. See if it's something you want to be a part of. It's going to be a cool event. So thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot. See you guys again next week.